Yeah. So I went to the nail salon, and sitting next to me were these two gals, and they were talking. Like one of them was visiting from Colorado, and one of them lived here, and they were obviously catching up like a lot. And in the middle of their catch up, I leaned over to them and I said, I apologize, like, for overhearing, but like, I mean, they were like, wah, wah, and I was like, right next to them.
Like we do.
Yeah. And I was like, but you're reminding me so much of my friend Sandy. We have a podcast called All Gold Everything. I totally hope you listen to it. And we started podcasting because we used to go get our nails done together and just like, wow, talk about everything. And it's just like, it's really nice to be reminded of that. And they were like, oh yeah, of course we'll listen. Okay, whatever. Well, I hope they are listening, because the next thing that happened is the one girl from Colorado was talking about how she and this guy are on again, off again, and they have been on again, off again since high school. And they are in their 30s. 32 to be exact. That is like almost, I don't know, how many years is that? Not 16, 14 years? 14 years of on again, off again.
That's a long time.
It was, Sandy?
Tell me more. I want more details.
It was all I could do to not be like, if you are in an on again, off again for 14 years, it is fucking time to get off and be done. So this gal, I hope she's listening, but I don't want to be too mean. But I want
just
her
be
to
you. Just tell the truth. Heidi, just tell the truth.
The truth. The truth of it is, like, if she and this guy are going back and forth, and like he is like totally hot for her. Oh, I want to meet you. Oh, I'm going to come down from so and so such and such place to meet you. And then she's like, oh, well, that's too bad because I have a boyfriend. But like, and he's like, oh, well, can we still hang out as friends?
And fuck.
Yeah. And then she told me that, or she told me, she told her friend. Then she told her friend that he went so far to say, and also could we be friends with benefits? And she was like, no, we can't because I have this boyfriend, but we can still be friends, which you know how I feel about that. And so she goes to meet him. And then of course, the day before she leaves to go meet this guy in Denver, she and her boyfriend break up. So then she's single, surprise, to go meet this guy who threw a wrench in her last relationship. So, like, whether or not he did it, he definitely did it on purpose. And whether or not she realized that he did that, she subconsciously, at the very least, broke up with this other guy so that she could go fuck this guy that she knew, that she's known since high school or whatever.
Well, good for her for breaking up with him.
I mean, at least she broke up with him.
Right.
And didn't cheat on him.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway, then she goes...
Although I can't imagine the emotional turmoil this whole thing is causing just in these couple days.
I know. So then she goes to Denver to meet the guy, and they have like 4 or 5 days of like great fun, right? And they're all like on the rebound or whatever. And then he's coming to visit her wherever she lives at. They live in different cities in Colorado. He's coming to visit her, and you know, even that morning of his visit, he's like, oh, I can't wait to see you. And then all of a sudden, and he's like, I'll be there at 3. And then at 4 o'clock, she gets a text from him saying, oh, I'm not coming. Right. So now that she's available and they've had their little fling, he decides he's not showing up. And she's like, I mean, I don't know. He and I have such a long history, and I really don't want to ruin this friendship over this. And I am like, my God.
One, there's no friendship. And if you're convinced there's a friendship, cool, but it's okay to ruin it over this.
Yeah. Like, you are not anybody's plate. You can't, I mean.
Empower yourself. Ruin this friendship over this.
Kiss this guy goodbye.
Yeah.
So she was like talking about how they were on again and off again. And then her other friend was like, oh, I know. I'm always on again, off again with this guy, and the timing's never right. And I just want to be like, do not waste any more of your damn time. That's your time. Don't let these fuckboys waste it. This is crazy to me.
What I'm hearing is there's probably a lot of lying to themselves going on. I feel like this just happens so much in these relationships with unavailable partners, right? There's so much lying to themselves. And so the one that is in Colorado in 2 different cities, she's probably has herself convinced that they are true loves and that they would be together if they were in the same city. Yes. If he wasn't with somebody, if she wasn't with somebody. And so the story she's telling herself is keeping herself in this mix, but the problem is she really, really believes this story. Yeah. So what's it going to take for her to understand that this story is just something she's making up? I know. In her own mind.
It was crazy. It was clear to me that both of them were in the stories that they were telling themselves about, like, oh, the timing just has never been right with him. Mm-hmm. We're really good friends. We really care for each other deeply. The timing's never been right. And I'm like, I just was like, oh my God, I texted Sandy from the nail salon. Oh my God, we got to talk about this epidemic of on again, off again. So there's a couple things going on. One of them is the discussion of unavailability. The other thing is, like, I just wanted to make it really clear, like, I do not believe in on again, off again.
No.
Have you ever been in an on again, off again? Like, even think way back into your memory vault. I'm trying to think. I was on again, off again with a boyfriend that I had in high school when I was 18. and probably through my early 20s. And we were both we were in separate cities, but I think we were really just like, it was very convenient to like be on when we were back home in Bettendorf, and then to be off when he was in Denver and I was in Pittsburgh, and then to be on, you know, so it was like, and it was like, I got access to him, he got access to me. Like, it was more like, we weren't really like that. I don't think either of us were deluded that we were like truly in love. So I think that was like an on again, off again of convenience. But like, I'm trying to think if I've ever been like, and some of this is because I don't know if I've ever been on again, off again with someone I deeply cared for, because I just have never been willing to give anyone that second chance. Like, I'm like, no, you fucked it, we're done. Yeah. You know?
No, I mean, I'm definitely like, I learned this term from Chelsea Handler, but I really relate to it. Like, I end shit. Like, I'm like scorched earth. When it's over, it's over. Yeah. Like, I don't even keep contact. And that's, I think, why, like, I'm not friends with any exes.
No.
And it's not even ones that, there's relationships that ended without turmoil or strife, and we're still not friends. Like, you're not my friend.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, my thing about that is like, if we could be friends, then we'd still be together. You know, like, I am 1000%. I think this is like such a I think this is such a common cultural misconception, this like fake construct of like, oh, everyone should be friends with their exes. It means you're like not a bitch if you're friends with your exes. Like, you can not be friends with your exes and also not be a bitch. And it's important to have those boundaries.
Right. It's important to have those boundaries. Yeah. It's too messy. I mean, I know people who claim to be friends with their exes, and they will shout from the mountaintops that it's healthy and it's fine. And again, I think that there's a lot of lies that they're telling themselves. Now, there's always the outlier. There's always going to be that really like actualized person who really actually can have a healthy relationship with an ex. But that's like 1 in 50.
Yeah, but then the other side of that is that the ex is probably not as actualized and is probably still in love with them.
Right. So I'm saying like it can happen, but for most of you, it is not you. Yeah. You are not that person. So quit lying. Tell the truth.
Tell the truth,
and set yourself free.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so no, I'm like scorched earth. I have never, will never get back together with an ex. If it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
And that's just, I don't know if that's like a flaw of mine or just
I don't know what to attribute it to either. I'm trying to think. I know in sobriety, I have not done on again, off again. And that's because I had a huge community of people like helping me through breakups to say like, hey, don't call that guy, or, you know, whatever. And then I think pre-sobriety, I was married, you know, in the year between being divorced and getting sober, I was just dating and fucking people. So I wasn't actually involved with anyone in that year. And then I was married before that, and that ended, and my ex-husband was like, can we still be friends? And I was like, absolutely not. And then, but prior to that, I did not have a lot of like dating experience of like serious boyfriends. And most of my teens and 20s was spent just kind of fucking around and dating people very casually. So I think part of the reason I don't have a lot of on again, off again is that I never really was willing to commit in the first place to get on even.
Yeah.
You know, in order to get off. But I just feel like I was just wanting to like shake both these girls. Like, your time is more valuable than this. And like, one of them then told a story about having gone home at the holiday time and having hooked up with a boyfriend that she had in high school. And then she found out 3 months later, because small town, that her mom ran into his mom and he's engaged to be married, and then found out that they're already married like 2 months later. So she was like, he's lying to everyone. So she was like, well, I called his best friend and said, oh my God, did you know that he got married? And I just thought, oh my God, these people, they have no boundaries.
Yeah.
So you
guys, these days,
you gotta stop chasing down his best friend. That's another one that I feel like is so important. That I feel like when you're on again, off again with someone, you may as well just go straight back to off, right? Like, don't waste, because it's just like, I just feel like don't waste your time.
Yeah.
You know? And then when you're off, like, his friends are his friends. They are not your friends. So like, don't go chasing them down, asking them what they think, getting them to weigh in on it, asking their opinions and advice, because they're not your friends. They're his friends.
Right. Well, and I think for these women, even though they're physically on again, off again, in their minds during the off time, it's sort of like feeding the fantasy. So even though you're on and now you're off and I'm in another state, or for whatever reason we're not available to each other, I'm still feeding the fantasy. I'm still pining over you. I'm still checking your Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm still reinforcing this story that we would be together if. And then, so when we're together, then now I'm actually getting my little pleasure buttons pushed, and I'm getting the payoff for all that pining and suffering during the off time.
Yeah.
And so it really is a cycle of suffering. And until somebody can realize that they don't want to live that way anymore, and until somebody can realize that they're worth more, that they deserve more, and that they're willing to do the hard thing of saying no more, then it's just going to continue. And then they're going to get their little blow off steam at the nail salon with their friend.
Yeah.
And then until their friends start to grow and their friends start to say like,
hey, this is fucked up.
That's kind of fucked up. And then they don't like that. And then,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a place. It's like eventually you gotta want to get out of the pain cave.
Yeah.
That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, but it sounds like they don't even realize they're in pain. And I think that happens. Like, I really feel like with the millennials, that's going on a lot more. There's something that came into this hookup culture that also was like, men don't have to be accountable anymore. Like, you can hook up, you can be a fuckboy. Yeah. And that's just how it is.
Or whatever.
That is dating.
Yeah.
And that's like why Heidi and I, like, when we talk about dating, it's like, no. Like dating is, people still date. Yeah. Even millennials still date.
Yes, it's true.
So get this story out of there.
Yeah, that this is the only way, that everyone does this. This is how people date. And they're like, people date like responsible adults.
Right. People do.
They do.
Millennials do. Young kids do. They do. The ones who have made a decision that they value themselves, they value their time, and they're not out to just, hook up and like, I don't know. I don't even understand what the motivation is behind the hookup culture.
Yeah, I don't either, really.
Other than just the pleasure of hooking up.
Yeah.
But that's never really done it for me, frankly.
It's so empty.
Yeah. I mean, I almost think that the texting after and the kind of connection after is almost as fun as the hookup itself.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could enjoy the hookup if I didn't get all that play and flirtation after.
But there is something in the cycle of like, okay, the hookup comes after a bunch of flirtation and text, and then the hookup. And then for a lot of people, they get stuck in the cycle of like, oh, I haven't heard from them. Now I'm totally obsessed with them. When am I going to hear from them?
That was always painful.
Even though it's painful, it's like part of the chaos, right? It's part of the process, and it makes you feel busy, and it makes you feel important, and it makes you, it's like there's all this like other kind of stuff going on around like chasing someone who's unavailable, making yourself unavailable so someone will chase you. There's a lot of gaming. I think that hookup culture is mostly about the game,
right?
Of like the cat and mouse game. You know what I mean? But I agree
good times,
with you.
Kids, good times.
I agree with you. That
sounds like fun.
That when you're ready to be out of the pain cave and you're ready to date, there are people who do still truly date, and that's really fun.
Right. And that's where it's at, because that's where what we want, like what love is two people who step outside of this milieu of chaos in this world that we live in and say, you're special to me, you're special to me. Yeah. That's what we want. Yeah. And that's what a date is. Yeah. A date is stepping outside of all of this and saying, you're special enough to me that I'm going to set my time aside for you, that I'm going to take you out, that I'm going to pay for your dinner. Even if I'm fucking poor, I'm going to pay for your dinner because you're special to me.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And that's what feels good. And that's what love is. And so this other stuff, I don't see that happening there. I just see a lot of hurt feels and, maybe.
Well, it's a lot of egos and a lot of the game, I guess.
Right.
What it made clear to me listening to these two gals was that so much of it was about the cat and mouse, like are we on, are we off? I want to be on when he wants to be off. He wants to be on when I want to be off. Like the chase was like a big part of it.
But she's probably making half of this shit up. He's just unavailable. He's to quote the old book, he's just not that into you. Yeah. If he was, he would be with you.
Yes. I mean, it was really hard not to lean over and just say like, that's not what's going on here. Like if he was, it made me think of what we talked about last week, where it's like, if he's into you, you'll know.
Right.
If he's not into you, you'll be confused.
Yeah.
I feel like we could nearly rename the podcast that, because I just feel like so adamant. It's one of the greatest lines I have ever heard you say. It's so true. And it was really it was really challenging not to lean over and say that to her.
Right.
And the thing that I think was painful for me about watching that was like just seeing, the delusion that we have as young women around like being sexually empowered and like what that means and how that should make us feel is confusing because it doesn't always make us feel the way we think it's going to make us feel.
Well, because we're not really sexually empowered.
Right.
Because we don't really know what it means to be sexually empowered until we're like in our fucking 40s.
Yes, that's right. The cultural construct of sexual
Right.
empowerment via Sex in the City says like sleep around and fuck everyone. Whatever. It's fine. I like Sex in the City. It was a great show when it was on. It was whatever. But it never actually left me feeling empowered when I was that way.
Right.
And then I was confused
And
because
that
I was
is a
like,
sentiment I've heard from a lot of young women.
Yes.
A lot of these young millennials
Right.
Have had the exact same feeling.
right. And then I'm confused. Why don't I feel empowered? All of culture says if I fuck around and like do what I want and fuck who I want, I'm going to feel empowered, but I don't. And now I don't know what to do. And these two gals really had that sentiment for me when I heard them talking about it yesterday because they were struggling. I could hear even in the way they were talking about it that they felt like they were empowered. They felt like they should feel empowered, but they didn't feel empowered. They felt confused.
Right.
You know?
And
So,
it's painful and it's suffering to be in that type of interaction.
yeah.
It just is.
So our advice is if you are on an on again, off again, walk away from the on again, off again and just be off.
Just be off.
Yeah. And see if you can step outside the hookup culture and get ready to value your time and yourself in a way that allows you to date in a meaningful and intimate way where you develop some relationships with someone. They're out there.
They are.
They are out there.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add to this topic? Or are you ready to
No,
wrap it up?
I just think that, I think so many women just need to really take some time to date themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that we give a lot of really important dating advice that's based on our own experience and our own learning and our own growth and experience. But we kind of breeze over the really important part of what we went through and to get to that place where we love ourselves and really to get to that place where for me it was, I knew that like my life was so full that I finally got to the place where I was no longer afraid of being alone the rest of my life, where when I thought about being alone the rest of my life, that was okay. I knew my life could be big and full. And the only downside of me being alone the rest of my life was that I'm going to have to deal with occasional feelings of loneliness, but I have tools and coping skills to deal with that. Like I was, and to do the work, to get to that point where we are actually there is the most empowering thing that a person can do. And I don't think I could get to the place where I could go out into the dating world and value myself in the way that I needed to value myself without having done that work.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And it's so hard. It's so hard because if we're willing to admit that at the end of the day, we're just scared of being alone, of getting old alone.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the first step.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. And like filling that fear with like hookup culture will not fix it.
No, it feeds that fear, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because every time you don't get the call back, every time the unavailable interaction fizzles, that fear just gets heightened. Like, oh, this is more proof. This is more evidence. I'm going to be alone forever.
So you're right. Like acknowledging that's the real fear is the first step, and then moving into embrace it and learn how to be yourself and love yourself and be alone for a while by yourself. That I had to do that for a long time, frankly, until I was ready to value myself.
Yeah. And then you'll fall in love and then you'll get married and then you'll be like, God, why can't I just be by myself? God damn it.
I love it. I love you.
JK lols.
What a show. What a show.